This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, August 26th, 2026. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Senator Darlene Graham fended off challenger and five-term Representative Ralph Norman in South Carolina's Republican Senate runoff. Susan Ferricchio reports Graham is the projected winner, leading by 4% with more than 98% of the vote tallied. In her victory speech, Graham said she misses her late brother Lindsey, whose current term she is serving out after being appointed last month by Governor Henry McMaster. She'll face Democrat Annie Andrews in November, a race Graham is favored to win. President Trump has deepened his war of words with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney as a trade war between the two countries gets deeper. Tom Howe reports Trump imposed 50% tariffs on about $20 billion worth of Canadian goods over the weekend. Then Carney retaliated with dollar-for-dollar tariffs on American products effective September 8th. Trump countered by saying on social media he wants to rename Lake Ontario as Lake America, in that we don't expect to doing much business with Ontario any longer. 53% of the lake is in Canadian territory. Its name comes from the Huron people and their word meaning beautiful water. The Department of Education is threatening to end federal aid to some colleges and universities for missing deadlines to document the value of their degrees. Sean Salai reports the department has given 1,930 schools until January 15th to share tuition and cost totals broken down by academic program for 2024 and 2025. The schools face fines, sanctions, and a pause in grants and loans if they fail to do so. Federal Student Aid, the office that distributes billions of dollars in student loans to campuses, has imposed a separate October 1st deadline for submitting this year's numbers. The Trump administration requested the data as part of a new policy ending federal aid to programs whose alumni earn less than the average high school graduate. Most of the non-compliant schools the department flagged are for-profit institutions. Congress is eyeing an intervention in college sports to set national standards for student-athlete compensation as states and schools struggle to govern it themselves. Mary McHugh Bell and Stephen Dinan report the bipartisan legislation led by Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz would create national standards for the name, image, and likeness system governing student athletes who are being paid. The core of the bill is the creation of national NIL standards, heading off a patchwork of legislation that has emerged in dozens of states. It would formalize student-athlete standards by guaranteeing their right to earn money and requiring universities to adhere to uniform rules on scholarships, medical coverage, and transfer protocols. The legislation was rushing through the Senate in early August, but didn't make it over the finish line before recess. The start of the college football season this week seems likely to push the bill back onto the agenda. And finally, Ukraine has begun an unusually early race to prepare its battered energy system for another winter of Russian bombardment. Guillaume Patak reports Ukraine has begun building smaller power sources, protecting substations, and preparing backup systems to keep heat and water flowing if Russia renews the attacks that brought major cities close to the breaking point last winter. Ukraine is making the preparations even as Russian strikes on energy infrastructure continue through the summer. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.